In this lesson, I'm going to demonstrate the logon process from a client computer. My client computer, RTS Client 1, has its IP configuration defined. Notice the primary DNS on RTS Client 1 is 172.16.0.10. I also have the local DNS server on the network. Its local IP address is the 172.16.0.10 address. So my client computer is set to use that DNS server as its primary DNS. On the network, I also have the domain controller. The domain controller has its own IP configuration. When my user logs in from client 1, a request is sent to the primary DNS server. The primary DNS, 172.16.0.10, will have a service location request sent to it. That service location request is looking for a domain controller. So it simply reaches out to DNS and says, DNS, can you tell me who hosts the Active Directory services? The specific name of the service it's actually looking for is the Kerberos service. Kerberos is the authentication protocol for Active Directory. That query leaves the client, goes to the DNS server. The DNS server has service location records for all of the domain controllers in the domain. The DNS server finds that record. It sends it back to the client computer. The client computer now knows the IP address of a domain controller. The client will then forward its authentication request directly to the domain controller that it was given from the DNS server. There are quite a few moving parts in this process. If this process were to fail, your user is unable to log on, or you are unable to join a domain. One of the most common reasons is your client has an incorrect IP configuration. Specifically, the primary DNS could be the wrong IP address. If I entered an incorrect address, if my primary DNS ended with .11 instead of .10, I would fail to join this computer to the domain. My user would fail to log on if the computer was already a domain member. It would simply fail to contact DNS. Therefore, it would never be aware of the IP address of a domain controller that it could authenticate against.